the next case.
All parties in the matter of Arrington versus Boston. Step forward, please.
Massage therapist Kathleen Arrington is suing former client, retired attorney John Boston, for the cost of her services. John is countersuing for the cost of his services, defamation of character, and for an injury to his thumb.
Miss Arrington, you are a massage therapist?
Yes, I am.
And Mr. Boston is an attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you practicing now, sir?
I'm almost retired. I still have a license, but I don't have any clients at this time.
Okay. Miss Arrington, according to what I've read, you and the defendant entered into a barter arrangement. You would provide him with massage therapy, and he would do some legal work for you, a problem that you had with a phone company.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that you performed your part of the service.
Yes.
He did not.
That is correct.
And you are suing him for the value of your services because he didn't perform his part of the barter agreement.
That is correct.
Okay. And Mr. Boston says that you actually owe him money because he did provide services. He worked for many hours on your legal problem, and at so much an hour, he discounted it, so you owe him a lot of money. And in addition, he says that you weren't a very good massage therapist because you damaged his thumb, and he's had all kinds of problems, and he's had to go for treatment and therapy. He has his hand in a splint. Anyway, so this whole barter agreement didn't work out very well. When did you make this agreement, Miss Arrington, with Mr. Boston, and how did you find him?
Mr. Boston came to me for a general massage when he found that I knew how to do neuromuscular massage.
Do you advertise?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an office?
I use my home, a room in my home.
Okay. How did you find her?
Your Honor, I saw an ad in the paper, the Austin Chronicle, which said, "Enjoy a glass of wine with your massage." My regular massage therapist was out of town, so I called her, and on the 28th of December, had a massage which I paid her $130 for.
And when did you make this arrangement with regard to barter?
At the end of the second massage, on January 4th, we had been just exchanging information on both the massages about what we do and what we do in our life. And I had told him twice that I was having trouble with MCI, that I had a defective phone line. They were not giving me the refund I needed. I had lost a lot of time taken off from my jobs to be there the 26 or 27 times it took to get them out to fix the phone, which was still dead at that current time. And he suggested that we barter. He would take on the MCI problem, try and get the money back.
How much money are we talking about?
At the time, I thought about $800. Mr. Boston said that he could probably get that back, plus some money that I probably was entitled to because I had lost so much work on the 26 or 27 or 28 times they had been to my house to fix the line. So it sounded like something that he could handle. He assured me he could handle it. So the barter began, and we did the first massage in the barter arrangement on January 19th.
Okay. And how many did you do on the barter arrangement?
9 massages, 3 of them were for an hour and a half long on the barter system.
Okay. From when to when? From the 19th of January until
From the 19th of January to the last time he came in. He came in 3 times in one day on March 10th. By this time, all I wanted him to do was finish the MCI thing. He was vague about it, and I never heard from him again until he called me around March 20th. No, he sent me a letter on March 23rd saying that he liked me. I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm attractive. Then he said he didn't have time to work on my case because he says if I'm hired by cash clients, taking care of their needs comes ahead of other considerations.
Let me see the letter.
In the same thing, he also suggests an hour-for-hour swap. Not.
Can I see?
I've highlighted most of them.
So, at some point, Mr. Boston, I assume that you became interested in a more than professional relationship with the plaintiff. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor, it is. I was divorced 2.5 years before. I was not dating anybody at the time, and I was looking for a relationship, not necessarily romantic, but just a friend. And we did a lot of things together during that time that were social and not professional on the swap.
I assume so. I assume that that's true. I mean, I've read the letter. The letter is clear that there were some discussions prior to this letter being drafted. Is that right?
I tried to keep it as professional as possible. When he refers to, he took me to dinner, he took me to a cafeteria.
Was your case settled with MCI?
No, he walked out. He never even called
Was
me.
your case ultimately settled?
Yes, they
Let's
gave
see.
me credit for $200 and they disconnected my phone because they were waiting to hear from him.
Well, I don't know that. You have a letter to say that says that?
No,
Okay.
I called him.
Can I see the work that you say that you did? I want to see the work, sir.
Right.
Mr. Boston, listen to me, sir. That is your entire file on the case?
No, ma'am. There's quite a bit of all the correspondence,
assume-
but that's the work product file.
No, I'm talking about the file on the case, sir.
Those are the letters exchanged between the agencies that I corresponded with, that I talked to on the phone, the Public Utility Commission of Texas, the Better Business Bureau of Texas at the state and national level, the Attorney General's Office of the Attorney General of Texas Consumer Protection Division, and then I got the top letter that you have there from their office of the MCI.
Just a second. Just a second. What do you get for a massage?
I get $85 an hour. It depends on the type of massage I was doing on him. It's $85 an hour.
Lawyers get more. But that wasn't your arrangement. Your
No, it was
arrangement,
hour for hour.
Well, your arrangement was you would do massages and you would take care of a legal problem.
Right, I did.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, well, at least you tried. I mean, there's no guarantee if somebody takes on your legal problem.
May I address the court, Your Honor?
I'm speaking. There's no guarantee, Ms. Arrington, if somebody takes on your legal problem, whether you pay them in barter or whether you pay them in cash, that they're going to get the result that you want. That's different from a massage. Hopefully, if you give a massage to somebody, they feel better. He says he didn't feel better. You want to get the second part of your complaint? You say that you were injured by the plaintiff.
Your Honor, it's a violation of the health and safety code, of the health code of Texas, to overtreat a massage client. Between the fourth day of February and the 12th, she did massages on my thumb. It was hurting me, and I told her. She said, "I'm breaking up calcium. It's going to help." Well, it's become chronic. I've seen 4 doctors. The first one was back when I just got back from a trip to see my daughter in Seattle. That would have been early May or late April. And he said, "Tape it." Then I went to my general practice physician. He said, "Put a cast on it whenever you're not doing something that has to take the cast off, use the cast." And then I went to my orthopedic surgeon, and he examined me, and he wrote up a report of that I can submit to the court.
I'd like to see it. Mr. Boston, you don't expect me to accept this as proof that the plaintiff injured you. You have arthritis in your thumb. That's what people get, arthritis. We all have arthritis. You don't know what time he spent on the telephone finding out who to write to, speaking to someone at the Better Business Bureau, speaking to someone at the Regulatory Commission. You have no idea what that is, and there's no way for me to quantify that. Listen to me very carefully. There's no way to do that, madam. That's what happens when you have a barter arrangement. You were giving him massages, and according to you, you gave him 9 massages, and if you felt as if he wasn't doing work for you during that time, I assumed you would have stopped.
He started asking me for sex, and I didn't know how to get out of it.
You get out of it by saying, "Give me my file back." If that's true, you get out of it by saying, "Give me my file back. I want nothing more to do with you." That's what you do.
Then what do I do about the money he owes me for the massage?
You strike it and say, "I made a mistake."
I brought a copy of what I did on him. I also have...
Listen to me, madam. I am not going to say what you did for him is worth more than the work he put in on your file. He did, in fact, in his capacity as an attorney, perform a service for you. The fact that you weren't totally satisfied with his service doesn't mean that you get the money back for the massages. Just like the fact that he wasn't totally satisfied with the massages that you gave him means that he gets any money back from you. Do I make myself clear? Both of you. You made a mistake. Next time, get paid for your service. Next time, get paid for your service so that you leave us out of it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
In the matter of Gorbach versus Dagrapont. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Gorbach, you were hired by the defendant, according to your complaint, to be Santa during Christmas season at his store or mall. Is that right, sir?
Mall.
Is this your mall? Do you own the mall?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, what do you do with the mall?
I operate a photo promotions company that specializes doing Christmas and Easter promotions in shopping centers.
And how long was the Christmas season?
6 weeks.
Okay. And you claim, Mr. Gorbach, that you quit.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you received your final paycheck, you were shorted in pay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your defense says he gave you absolutely no notice, and that caused you some damage to your business.
Correct.
When did you start working for him, sir?
I started work on November 13th.
Did you answer an ad in the paper? Is that how you got the job?
No, I had visited the mall a number of times, and one of the photographers had called me over and told me to call Mr. Daguerre if I was interested in being a Santa Claus.
And you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were your duties explained to you?
Well, the only thing we discussed was pay. I was over the phone, and he had quoted me $12 an hour pay plus overtime and a bonus at the end of the shooting in insurance.
What kind of bonus?
Well, it was dependent on the amount of money they made.
Okay, never accept a bonus based upon what somebody else tells you they're going to make.
Yeah.
That's not smart business. Okay, so you worked for a while, and what happened?
Well, when I first started working there, I kept time. In fact, I kept time the whole time I was working, the amount of hours I worked and the days that I worked. And when I got my first paycheck, I noticed that the pay was not $12 an hour, I was told. No overtime was included. It was only $8 an hour. So when I talked to Mr. Daguerre about this, he told me that I had misunderstood and that he had told me $8 an hour, but there'd be $1 an hour raise every year, and at the end of 4 years, I'd get $12 an hour.
At the end of 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Well, this was, you know, an oral agreement, and I figured, well, I didn't have anything to back up on, and I was having a ball. I enjoyed being Santa Claus at the mall.
Were you working at another job as well?
I had a couple of daycare centers that I did Santa Claus for, and I enjoyed doing that. I've been doing that for years.
Okay, but other than that, you had no regular job?
No, ma'am, I'm retired.
You're retired. Okay.
So I decided, well, like I said, it's an oral agreement. I can't back him up on it.
So you decided to work
So
for
I decided to go for the $8 an hour.
Okay.
So about 2 or 3 days later, Mr. Daguerre came up there and told me, Santa Claus is smiling too much. Quit smiling. I said, well, you know, everything I've read about Santa Claus, he's a jolly old elf. And I enjoyed having fun with the kids and all. And being as I was having fun, I would continue doing it. But when the job quit being fun, I was going to quit. So that ended that discussion. And then I think it was the following Thursday, when I was getting ready to leave the mall, 2 of the people in the mall came to me and told me I was going to hear some very bad news the next day, that they had overheard Mr. Daguerre talking to one of the little girl photographers.
All right, well, don't tell me what anybody else told you. What happened the next day?
Well, that Friday, Mr. Daguerre was in, and nothing. He worked there about 4 or 5 hours and left, and I didn't hear anything. But when we were closing down that night, one of the little girls called me over, the photographer called me over and said, Mr. Daguerre says he wants you to stay on the seat, the Santa Claus sled, the whole time you're here. Don't get up and go visit the children. Don't go visit the adults. You know, that'd be taken away from time. But when we're not taking pictures, that was fun. In fact, I encouraged quite a few people to come and get pictures by just going out there and visit them.
So you went out in the crowd?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, I stayed within the confines. We had a little fence, and I stayed within that.
But you didn't just sit in the sled?
I didn't sit in the sled the whole time.
Okay. And this was one of his employees that told you?
Yes, ma'am.
That you were to stay in the sled and not
Yes, she said mingle. She was informed by Mr. Daguerre to tell me that this was the new regulation.
Okay. And you did, in fact, tell somebody that he was to stay in the sled?
As required by a contract with the shopping center.
Whatever. You did, in fact, make that statement.
Did.
I just want to make sure. So it was after that, sir, that you quit?
Yes, ma'am. I called him that night and asked him what was the reason behind this. He told me the same thing. This is a requirement of the mall. And I said, well, I told you before, when the job quit being fun, I quit. So we had a lengthy discussion, and I told him, you know, tonight's Friday, have somebody else out here Saturday.
Okay.
And I quit.
Now, when you quit, sir, on that Friday, how much were you owed?
I had 46 hours I had worked at that time, according to my schedule.
Okay, so 46 hours, and it was $8 an hour that you agreed to work for.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's $368, right?
Every day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dagapont, let's hear you.
Your Honor, Mr. Gorbash is a wonderful Santa Claus, and we really enjoyed having him work for us. But he has a little problem with math. I've brought the official records that are kept by the managers in the booth, as well as a copy of how he added the hours up, and I think if you look at it, you'll see that the math is incorrect.
How many hours do you say you owed him, sir?
The last paycheck, we owed him 37.5 hours.
Okay. Did you pay him?
Yes, we did.
You did pay him.
We issued him a check, yes, ma'am.
Did you ever get a check from them for 38 hours?
37 and a half hours.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do with that check?
I contacted Mr. Dagapont, and I asked him why I was not getting paid, first of all, for the $8 an hour that I was supposed to be getting paid, and that I was shorted hours.
Just a second, you mean he paid you less than $8 an hour?
Yes, ma'am. He cut my pay to $5.15 an hour.
Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
Why did you do that, sir? That's going to cost you
The
money.
fact that the contract, that oral contract that we had with Mr. Gorbash was one that he had agreed to work till December 24th. But he not only didn't work to December 24th, he quit 20 days early, failed to give us any reasonable time to find a replacement, even though we begged him to. And I just felt that
unilaterally cut his pay.
I felt that he breached the contract, and I was no longer required to pay the agreed amount.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Come on, listen. I wasn't born yesterday. Being a Santa Claus at this man's age is not something that you sign on for with an annuity. You don't say, well, if you're a good Santa Claus, in 4 years, we're going to give you more money.
And later today,
You left the defendant with your father's phone card.
Right.
Your father got a whopping bill.
She made $849 worth of phone calls plus taxes and fees, which came out to $1,015.
Big talker.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Father phone card. Sit.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Department store Santa Melvin Gorbash says promoter Don Dagapont owes him for work. Don says Melvin breached the contract when he didn't show up for work.
All right, I'm going to ask you this question, Mr. Dagapont. Mr. Gorbash, I believe, based upon what little I've seen of him, wasn't doing this job for money, necessarily, because if he was doing the job just for money, he certainly wouldn't have quit. Right?
Right.
He had a good time doing it.
I agree.
He's retired. You get a pension, sir? Or-
Yes, ma'am. I'm on medical retirement.
So he doesn't need these extra couple of bucks. Tell me about the $12 an hour that you discussed with him when you spoke on the phone. Did you ever say to him, Mr. Dagapont, salary is between $8 and $12 an hour?
I told him the salary was $8 an hour, yes.
You mean he's just making up the fact that $12 an hour was mentioned someplace in your conversation?
Well, I may have said that we pay Santa Clauses between $8 and $12, but
That's what I
Santa Clauses
That's
make
what I
$8.
just said, Mr. Dagapont.
Well, you asked me.
That you pay him between $8 and $12 an hour. So he didn't get the $12 an hour out of nowhere.
Right.
Now, you did, in fact, have a conversation with him after he got his first week's pay, and he called you and said, what happened to the $12
No, he
an hour?
didn't say that.
He never called you after he got his...
He met with me personally and said...
Met with you personally. So he
where
met
are
with you...
the $10? He never mentioned 12, he mentioned 10. But he has a little problem with math, so I'm not surprised that he didn't know 10 and 12 are different numbers.
Mr. Dagapont, he had a conversation with you, and he said, what happened to the original, let's say, $10 an hour?
That's what he said, Your Honor.
And then you said, well, I told you that we paid between 8 and 12, and we're paying you 8?
No, I told him that the starting salary was at 8, but that I would throw in $1 bonus if he stayed to the end as he agreed. Your Honor, I would have paid him whatever he asked if he would have stayed. In fact, this was a wonderful Santa Claus, and we did not want to lose him, and I didn't care what we had to pay him. He will hopefully remember me saying, Mr. Garbage, I was going to pay you the $10 an hour. Can't you please come to work like you agreed?
Why didn't you pay him the $10 an hour initially that you had initially discussed with him?
Because this is what we start all our Santa Clauses off.
Come on, listen, I wasn't born yesterday. Being a Santa Claus during Christmas season at this man's age, right, is not something that you sign on for with an annuity. So when you sign on for it to work for 6 weeks, you sign on for it with a certain salary. You don't say, well, if you're a good Santa Claus in 4 years, we're going to give you more money.
I never said
he
that.
may be delivering
Your Honor,
in the
I
North
never
Pole
said
in
that.
4 years. Mr. Dagrafon,
That was never said by me, Your Honor.
I want to tell you something, Mr. Dagrafon. I find your testimony a little bit slippery, to say the least.
Well, I'm sorry
I find
to
it
hear
a
that.
little bit slippery, and I tell you that for, among other things, that you had absolutely no right, because if I believed what you said, you had absolutely no right to cut his pay unilaterally from the $8 that you said you were going to pay him to $5. You didn't have a written employment agreement with him. If you had, he would have known exactly what he was going to make, not between 8 and 12 or 8 and 10. So you decided that he had to be punished for leaving you? What'd you do with the check that they sent you, sir?
Well, I cashed it because I needed the money.
Let me see the check. Exactly what it was. Because you certainly are entitled to the difference.
Your Honor, if I may.
Last check.
Just a second. The last check you sent him was for $178.36.
Right.
That was net. The gross
Right.
was $193.13.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I don't like to deal with change. You don't mind if I don't deal with change, Mr. Gorbach?
No, it's okay. He cut dollars. If you want to cut a couple of pennies, it's okay.
Okay. Mr. Gorbach,
Yes.
today's Christmas for you.
Thank you.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $175, which is the difference in what I consider, sir, the amount that you owe this gentleman. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. Down in Louisiana, we don't go ho, ho, ho. You go ha, ha, ha.
He's a wonderful Santa Claus, and I'm hoping that he'll work for us in the future.
I love being Santa Claus.
And now the next case.
All parties on Restelli versus Waterstrat. Step forward, please.
21-year-old student Cara Restelli is suing former friend, 21-year-old student Megan Waterstrat, for the use of an international phone card. Megan says Cara left her stranded in Europe, and the phone card was used for emergencies.
Okay, the facts of this case, I don't believe, are in dispute. You two ladies were good friends and decided to travel to Europe together.
Yes.
Correct.
And sometime towards the beginning of the trip, you received word that the fiancé of a very good friend of yours had died suddenly.
Yes.
And you felt as if it was important for you to return home immediately to be with your friend.
Yes.
Okay. Where in Europe were you going?
We were traveling all around Europe, London, Italy, and we were supposed to go also to Spain and France.
How long was the trip?
It was supposed to be for 3 weeks.
How much into the trip had you received that information?
It was 9 days.
Okay. When you left the defendant with your phone card.
Correct.
That was really your father's phone card.
Right.
Yes.
Father phone card. Sit. And according to you, your father got a whopping bill.
Yeah.
The defendant's calls, and you want her to pay for those calls.
Correct.
Can I see the bill, please?
Yes. I have a list of all the phone calls she made as well as the actual phone bills. It spans over 2 months because it went from 1 month into the next.
Have you seen these?
Yes, I have. She sent them to me in the mail.
Any calls that you question?
No, I don't question any of them.
Okay. So what was the total amount of the bill that she is responsible for?
She made $849 worth of phone calls plus taxes and fees, which came out to $1,015.
Okay. There you go. Big talker.
Absolutely.
So why aren't you responsible for this bill?
Well, upon leaving, or Carol leaving Europe, she gave me the phone card for emergency calls. And in my opinion, all the phone calls I made were for emergencies. So I feel that I don't have to pay.
Well, let me understand this. She gave you the phone card because you didn't have one. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Tell me about the conversation that you had with her when she gave you the phone card.
Well, I don't really remember specifically.
Then you don't remember specifically? Then you can't help me.
Oh, I can. Well, she said, here's a phone card, so when we leave, you know, you can use a phone card in case of emergencies. And so I did tell her that I would help pay for the phone bills, but she also agreed that she would not leave me alone in Europe, and she was willing to pay $500 for a ticket home. So when she sent me this bill, like, there was a disagreement between, like, she owes me $500, but yet
What she owe you $500 for?
Because she promised she would pay for a ticket home for $500. Like,
why should she pay for your ticket home?
Because she left me in Europe. Well, as it turned out, like, she left me. It was her decision to leave me. This trip had been planned out for quite some time, and it was a major expense. And I bought a restrictive ticket and could not change the date to fly home.
You had an emergency.
Well, of course, but
just a second. She had an emergency.
Well, of course she had an emergency, but in my opinion, it was an emergency that I thought she should go home for.
Were you having a good time for the 9 days that you were there?
With her?
Yes.
Yes.
You having fun?
Yes.
It wasn't as if you were having a miserable time and not getting along and you dumped her. No, you were having a good time.
Yes.
And you had, I assume, planned this trip for a long time and wanted to continue with the trip.
Yes.
But you felt as if you had a moral obligation to go home and be with your friend.
Correct.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I also thought she had a moral obligation to stay with me because we were halfway across the world.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Well, if you're 21 years old, madam, nobody has to babysit for you.
Of course not, but the whole reason why I went on this trip with a friend was to have, you know, to have a company, like, to have somebody there to talk to and share the experience with. So she left. That's not fulfilling her, like, obligation to me. I mean, I went on this trip.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you lost a member of your family, if you received word that a member of your family died while you were 9 days into the trip, do you think it would have been the right thing for you to do to go home?
With my friend, yes, and I would pay for her ticket home also.
Baloney. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,015. Grow up!
Now, this is case number 271 on the calendar in the matter of Rochelle versus Martin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Rochelle, you were the caregiver for the defendant's grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
Who passed away on the 31st?
24th of January.
24th of January. It is your claim that the defendant slandered you by claiming that you took some money that you shouldn't have, that was her grandmother's money.
Yes.
I think that was in Social Security checks, that because she said that you had taken those checks and you weren't authorized to at that time, the money was taken out of your account, causing other checks that you wrote to bounce. So what you're suing her for is $5,000 for the aggravation that you had and the bounce check fees, etc., and also for slandering you.
Yes.
Ms. Martin is going to explain to me what happened. She says that this whole thing is really about an insurance policy that you had on the life of her grandmother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let me try to place this in perspective. Okay. Ms. Rochelle, when did you start to act as the caregiver for Miss Martin's grandmother?
In May of 1999.
What was wrong with her grandmother?
She couldn't walk very well due to rheumatoid arthritis, and she's a diabetic also, so she didn't get around very well.
Was your grandfather alive at the time?
In 99, yes, he was.
So were you caring for both of them?
I cared for him also, yes.
Were you living in or just?
Yes, I was to live in.
Who hired you?
I wasn't really hired. I come here, they were my godparents. I moved here from Kansas City because I was here in December prior to May of 1999.
Oh, so you knew that they were your
godparents?
Yes, I knew them.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
So when I got there in December and saw what condition they were living in, I mean, adults, people shouldn't have to live like that. So when I went back home, I couldn't rest, so I came back out to try to get their home and get them in living condition, and I was going to go back home. I figured everybody else would take care of them. It didn't happen, so I was here till they both died.
So your grandfather died first?
Yes, he had Alzheimer's and other conditions.
So he had Alzheimer's?
Yes.
But not her grandmother?
No.
She just had physical problems.
Physical problems. She was very strong mentally.
Okay. And it was agreed that the Social Security checks were to be direct deposited into your account.
Well, it was agreed that that's how she would pay me, yes.
So she was paying you?
Yeah, the last year, the first 2 years I worked for, took care of her, Mrs. Spivey, with no pay.
How much was she paying you?
June of 2002, she started paying me $1,100 per month. But prior to that, she wasn't paying me anything.
Oh, just a second. Now, was that $1,100 her Social Security check?
Yes.
Now, when did you leave the employ of, what was your grandmother's name?
Mrs. Alberta Spivey.
When did you leave Miss Spivey's employ?
I came home one Friday evening and she explained to me that Monday, which would be the 28th, that she would be going to the hospital and from there to a nursing home.
Okay. Now, that you claim that she told somebody at the bank that you had stolen money or taken money. What money?
I have an affidavit with a check that Miss Martin accused me of stealing, which was a check that I received every month for Mrs. Spivey. For Mrs. Spivey.
What month?
November 1st.
Well, you weren't in her employ in November.
But she still expected me to take care of her. I was her sole provider.
No. She left on October 28th. November
Yes.
1st. You got the check. It should have been returned. Is that the check we're talking about?
The arrangement we made was that when Mrs. Spivey came to me in April of 2002, she didn't pay me for April. So when she left, by her not giving me a 30-day notice, I was supposed to keep November's payment also. That's the arrangement we made.
That's hearsay, madam. If she left your home on October 28th,
okay,
and if Miss Martin complained that you had taken November's check and appropriated it for yourself, and it was a Social Security check, then she didn't slander you. Is that the check you're complaining about?
Well, Mrs. Martin had no arrangement with Mrs. Spivey's and I arrangement, you know. I mean, there's no written document saying I get this every month, I do that, you know. I cast a check, she'll give me what she wanted.
Well, if there's no written document, then you can't take her Social Security. Her Social Security goes to her. So if that's what you're complaining about, Miss Rochelle, your complaint is falling on deaf ears. She says that this is all about an insurance policy, and I'm sort of curious about that insurance policy. When did Miss Spivey take out an insurance policy naming you as beneficiary?
She had the insurance policy in 2001, but when she came to live with me, she complained the whole time. We talked previously on the phone.
Just answer my questions. You can't tell me what she said to you. She's not here.
August, I believe, of 2002.
August of 2002, she changed the insurance policy, making you the beneficiary.
Yes.
Who had previously been the beneficiary?
Her daughter in Topeka, Kansas.
And where did she go when she changed the insurance policy? Did she go to somebody's office, or did somebody come to her?
The insurance agent, which is present here in the court, he came to our home and took out the policy.
Who was the insurance agent?
Mr. Harvey.
Step up, please. Your last name is Harvey?
Yes. May I interject for a moment, sir?
Yes.
The insurance policy prior to August 20th had lapsed. So a new application was issued August 20th, 2002, and this is the application to which plaintiff is referring.
So in August, when you came to the house, sir, she did not have insurance.
Correct.
Had you been Miss Spivey's insurance agent previously on the old policy?
No.
And when you came to the house, you wrote up another insurance policy and named a different beneficiary. Is that correct?
Well,
Is that correct, that you wrote up another policy with a new beneficiary?
Correct.
Just answer my question.
Well, I didn't know who the first beneficiary was.
Who determined, Ms. Martin, that the signature on this new policy was not your grandmother's signature?
The policy issued in August 20th, 2002 is her signature. The policy was amended in November. That is the signature my mother and I have disputed with Guarantee Life Insurance. That is not her signature.
What do you mean the policy was amended in November?
Okay.
Was the policy amended in November?
It was increased.
From what to what?
10 to 15,000.
November what?
About mid-month.
I have the exact
Who called
date, Your
you
Honor.
to increase the policy?
Miss Rochelle.
Miss Rochelle, who was no longer taking care of Miss Spivey. Is that right?
I was taking care of Miss Spivey. I was running back and forth to the nursing home taking care of her. Yes, I was.
On November 8th, she was not in the nursing home. She was at Brotman Medical Center.
Well, I was out there also. Records can show that, too.
But also, Your Honor, this policy is a joint whole life policy with my uncle and my grandmother. My uncle was incarcerated through at least January 19, 2003. His signature also appears on both applications. I don't see how that's possible.
I don't know either, but are you still in litigation with regard to that second policy?
We were told by Guarantee that the policy would not be paid.
And it has not been paid, is that right?
Yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
he just all of a sudden started shaking the car, pushing it back and forth. Then he just swan dives on top of my roof. And I said, I'm going to call the cops. He said, you want me off your car? Come down here and make me get off your car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Caregiver Dorothy Rochelle claims her deceased client's granddaughter, Joyce Martin, falsely accused her of stealing. Joyce says Dorothy took out a life insurance policy on her grandmother.
All right, not so hard. Miss Rochelle, you had no right to keep in your account Miss Spivey's Social Security check for the month of November of 2002. You were no longer taking care of her. The $1,100 was to provide for her care. She was either in a hospital or she was in a nursing home during the month of November. Both of those facilities were entitled to a piece of her Social Security check, not you. Ms. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
She has a very simplistic lawsuit here. Her lawsuit says that you accused her of stealing money, of using money that she wasn't entitled to.
Correct.
And I've just told her that she wasn't entitled to that money that she had in her bank account. Okay. And that if, because of your complaint, that money was withdrawn from her bank account and she suffered damages because other checks bounced, that's too bad.
That's correct.
Too bad. She had no right to keep that money. It was a Social Security check. I've answered you. You had no right to keep the money. You may disagree with me. That's your problem. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye. Good luck.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I took care of this woman, grandmother and grandfather, for 4 years. She was too good to take care of them.
The package I brought with me today are the remains of my grandmother.
For abuse and slashing her tire.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Quiet in the courtroom. Thank you. Your Honor, this is case number 334 on the calendar in the matter of Gaines versus Gaines. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat. Ma'am, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Gaines, you've been married for 16 years. According to your papers, you are in the process of divorcing. You have children together. How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
12 and 17.
You are suing your wife, sir, because you say that she sold some of the tools of your trade.
Yes.
After you left the house.
Yes.
What tools do you say she sold?
She sold a generator, a wet and dry vacuum, and an air compressor.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter, construction.
Now, when did you leave the house, sir? What year?
97, I believe it was.
What month in 97?
I don't know, February, January. I'm not sure of the month. Exactly.
I guarantee you she knows it to practically the second. When did he leave the house?
July 31st, 97.
Women always know.
That's right.
July 31st, 97?
Yes.
Order.
And when did you go back for all this stuff?
Maybe I was coming in and out in that house, like living there sometime. And then we get into it, I'd be put out, the police come. So actually, it's hard to say. I know when I did actually went to get it out of like 7/10 of 98, I know that's when I pursued to go over there with the police officer. And when I went to go get it with the police officer, she told the police officer she didn't want to deal with that right now. So after that, I had to leave because there was a restraining order against me. But I went at first I used to try to go over there and get it without the police officer. But and then when I would go over there, she would say to me that, well, sometimes you're just trying to be nice because you're trying to get your belongings. Which, that's what it was. I was trying to get my belongings.
Smart. She's smart. Shh.
So, so that didn't work. So being that didn't work, I kept maybe giving her money, kept going. We done, how can I say this?
Was he coming back and forth during that year?
He was coming to visit the kids, take them to church and stuff like that. I asked him to take the tools out of my garage. So
when did you ask him to take the stuff?
About a month or two after he left.
Okay, so
and then I said,
a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. I said, well, won't you come get your stuff? I have nowhere to put them.
You remember that?
Yes, I remember
Okay, go ahead.
He said he had nowhere to put them, so I said, fine. So they stayed there for a while, and eventually I needed some money, and I sold the tools to pay some bills and buy some food. And then when I told him about it, he said, okay, that's fine, I understand. Now I'm here being sued because
When
he
did you
doesn't
tell him that
understand.
you had sold the tools?
I told him I sold the tools in August.
August of 98.
98.
She told me the reason she sold the tools is because she was getting evicted, not because food and bills. She said, I was getting evicted. That's why I sold the tools. Matter of fact, I believe it's down. Oh, okay.
She said she was getting evicted because she didn't pay rent.
That's a bill, right?
That's a bill.
That's what I thought.
Now, my question to
Okay,
you,
well,
Mr. Gaines.
I was just saying her words was she said she was getting evicted to make me feel like, well, that's okay that you sold that. Because I would feel like, oh, well, the kids, I don't want them out in the street.
Okay, now, Mr. Gaines,
Well, I'm just telling you the way I felt about that. Okay.
One of the things that your wife says, and you seem to acknowledge in your complaint, is that you stopped paying child support. You stopped giving her money.
No.
Just let me read what it
Okay.
says. It says, my children are very important to me, and when I stopped giving her money, I gave only for my daughters. She got mad and said I couldn't see them until the year 2000. So there came a time when you stopped giving her money.
I never stopped giving her money.
Are you under a court order to pay her a certain amount of support?
Yes.
How much?
I believe, because I have other kids, I believe it's like $6 something, but I think the court, it says on the paper $800 and something, $804 a month.
Well, the fact that you don't know how much you're supposed to give her every month, sir, suggests to me that you don't write this check out religiously.
Well,
because I guarantee you this, most men and women who pay child support or a bill, like rent, they know their rent is $432.64. Their mortgage payment is $1,375. So if you wrote this check out every month for the last year, you would know exactly what your child support is. So there came a time when you were not paying.
They automatic takes it out of my check. I don't have to write a check. It automatic comes from my check, and my check stubs is right here, if you would like to see.
I sure would.
Even when I'm on unemployment, they takes it out. So I don't have to.
How many children do you have altogether?
4.
Well, do they take out for which children from your check?
Well, she, I believe, actually the only one asking for child support.
What do you mean you believe?
Well, for a fact, her and I have a 20-year-old daughter that I might be paying some back pay on that. But the other daughter, the girl works, she didn't go at child support.
All it says here is they take out $204 for support.
Right.
Do you get that money?
$204 a week. I got that for about up until, I think the last check was the end of September or something like that, because he quit his job.
No, I lost my job from dealing with her for as believing that she was like, we were still like talking. Like I said, I was still going over there, spending the night. And then one night I happened to catch her with her and her friend. And I said, she's not getting no more money. I'm not going to take care of you and your friend.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you slash her tires?
No.
Did you get somebody else to do it?
No.
But you broke a window?
No.
Come on.
Well,
Fess up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eugene Gaines is suing his estranged wife, Marquita Gaines, for his tools. Marquita is suing Eugene for a broken window, slashed tire, and stress.
I assume that all of the marital property will be resolved in the course of your divorce proceeding. You must have certain things in the house, furniture, appliances, and all that other kind of stuff. You're in the process of divorcing now. That stuff is going to be separated and cut in half. When did you buy this stuff, this wet, dry vac air compressor generator?
It's been about a year. For the generator, but the wet and dry vac, I think it's like the air compressor. I think I had it for maybe 2 or 3 years, or maybe even longer. I'm not sure exactly.
But you bought it during the course of the marriage?
Yes.
Well, you've been married 16 years. None of the stuff was 16 years old.
Yes.
So, in this jurisdiction, all that stuff is part of marital property. So she sold it, and she may be required to pay you half of the value of the property. How much did you get for it?
All together, about $900.
What do you mean about $900?
I sold one for, like, one item I sold for $150, another item I sold for about $600, another item about $200.
You want to show me something?
Yeah, I want to show you what I paid for just the air compressor alone that she got only $900 for. And here's the receipts to what the generator and the, here's the receipt for the generator. That's the generator there. And here's the receipts for the air compressor and the wet and dry vac.
Sir, listen to me. You listed in your complaint, generator $800. As it turns out here, it's $699. So it's $100 less than what you said in your complaint, right? Then you have something listed, a wet and dry vac for $140 is your receipt, right?
Right.
And you listed $150 for that in your complaint. So far we're down $110.
Okay.
Right? Then you list the air compressor, $354. As a matter of fact, that was $309. Right?
Right.
Okay. So she's not far off if she sold it. You list the whole thing as $1,300. You take off a couple $100 that you padded on your complaint.
No, it's not that I did padded.
That you should listen to me, that you padded on your complaint, and it comes down to $1,100 that you paid for it. She sold it for $900. I think she got a pretty good deal. This was all used equipment, so half of that is $450. Now, you have a cross complaint.
Yeah.
Let's deal with your cross complaint. You say he broke the kitchen window in your house. Cost you $55.80 to fix it. How did he break the window?
He broke the window with a pole or a brick. I'm not sure what he broke it with because I wasn't at home when he broke it.
Well, who saw him break it?
He told me he broke it. I asked him, why did he break him? I asked him, why did he break my window? He said, I thought you was with another man.
When was this?
This was in September or the end of August, about...
Of 98?
Yeah.
And when did you have this conversation with him?
Over the phone that same night.
You called him or he called you?
He called me.
And what'd he say?
I thought you was with another man because you said you were going to take the kids somewhere because you left so fast and you were so nice to me. I was trying to get him away from my house because I was sick and tired of him. And so he left. He came there that morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, threatening me he wanted to come in and talk. I said no. He started picking up leaves and raking grass and doing all kind of stuff. He threw his keys on the top of my roof and said he was going to get me back one way or another. Get the divorce, and going through all this stuff about what he didn't want, what he wanted.
Okay,
and
what about the slashed tires?
There was a police report about the slashed tire. The first time, because this happened twice, the first time he let the air out of the tires. And he told me, well, I'm sorry, I was mad at you, because he asked me to move back home, and I said no. And so he said, well, I said, why'd you cut my tires or let the air out of my tires? Well, I don't hate you, because if I did, I would have cut your tires. And I said, yeah, fine. I had to have AAA come put air in my tires. Then, about a couple of weeks later, when he got upset about something else happened, he apparently either had somebody puncture my tire or he did it himself.
How do you know he did it? I mean, other than the fact that you think he did it.
Other than the fact that he told me did it is the statement he made before saying that if he hated me, this is what he would have done.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question. I know the answer. Did you slash her tires?
No.
Did you get somebody else to do it?
No.
But you broke a window?
No.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You broke a window. I believe her when she said you had that conversation with her right after the window was broken. I believe her.
No. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I believe her. Come on.
Well.
Fess up.
No, I didn't break the window.
Well, maybe you had somebody else you were
I didn't
with
break the window. I
So-
can say
so
that. I didn't break the window.
You personally
did not break the window.
You personally did not break the
Thank
window.
you.
Just a second. Just a second.
Okay.
Listen, did you hear what he's saying? He personally, with his own hand, did not break the window.
I understand that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your tools were not your tools. Your tools
My
were marital tools. Marital tools, sir.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Eugene Gaines is suing his estranged wife, Marquita Gaines, for selling his tools. Marquita admits to selling some of the tools, but says he doesn't pay support.
He's charged for the window. How much did it cost you to fix the window?
$55, and 80 cents.
Okay.
So what's with the with her being able to say, can I, like, showing you all the money that I did give her for is, like, when she said, like, the restraining order saying for me not to come over, when I went over there with the police, have my witness right here, when I went over and tried to get my air compressor out the garage, well, when I tried to get my belongings out the garage with the police, she said she didn't want to deal with that right now, but she had a restraining order. I did it every way that
Mr.
possible.
Gaines, listen to me very carefully. You're not following what I'm saying, sir. What I'm saying to you is I am charging her for half of your property because your tools were not your tools. Your tools were marital tools. Marital tools, sir. Just because she's the one that uses the microwave in the house doesn't mean that microwave isn't marital property. And just because she may be the only one that uses the stove, that doesn't mean it's not marital property.
Okay,
your tools were purchased during the course of your marriage and therefore are marital property. She sold them. She's being charged for half of them, $450, from which I am deducting $55 for the window that got broken. Now, the only other part of your lawsuit that I am probably going to dismiss summarily, Mrs. Gaines, is you are suing him in addition to the window, etc., and the tire, which you have no proof that he actually broke, that he actually slashed. You're suing him for $2,000 for stress. Listen, if we allowed those kinds of suits in matrimonial actions for stress, we would have courts running 24 hours a day. That's why people get divorced.
Thank you.
You understand?
Yes.
Now, do you think you suffered any stress that was different from most people's stress when they decide to get divorced?
Yes, I do.
Well, let me hear about it. Who are you?
I'm
My
her mother.
Betty.
And I'm a witness to some of the events.
She's going to tell me the worst part. Sit down. And then, okay. Just why don't you sit down? Go ahead.
When I have to leave my job because he's calling, harassing, threatening, breaking in my home, and doing all these things, and I can't leave to come to work because he's let air out of my tires, you know, that, besides that, wasting 16 years of my life with this man, you know, was not even enough.
Ms. Gaines, let me tell you this.
Laugh at that.
Everybody who gets divorced, who's been married for a decade, almost 2 decades, says, why did I waste my time with this guy? The best 16 years, I looked my best, I was my freshest, my skin was the best, my figure was my best, and I wasted it on this schlemiel, right? You understand?
Yes.
Most women who get divorced say that, and the reason that they say that they wasted their time, and stop fidgeting!
Okay.
The reason that men don't say that is because they can usually, I don't know, how old are you?
38.
38. They're 38 years old. When they're 40, when they're 45, they're still going to be able to find some young chippy who's going to find them attractive, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, women are not in the same kind of position. It's just the way things are. I'm working to change that.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
The truth of the matter is, he's going to go out and make another couple of babies, right? And have a whole new family. Right. And he's standing there saying, right, that sounds good to me. You don't get paid for that. What you do is you get smart. You get smart. You get out, you get smart, and you just move on with it.
Exactly.
So, good. $450 is what you're going to get for your wet vac. Less $55 for the window that you broke. It's $395. Is that right?
That's right.
Perfect. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Out the back, go to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Oh, he just told a bunch of lies, but that's okay, because I'm going to move on just like Judge Judy said.
What kills me, though, is when somebody says, for 16 years of wasting their life with my marriage. Well, why when I go to Martinez that she always go to the restraining order side, but don't go to the side where you get a divorce?
I don't know. I have no idea. You know, I really don't know.
I'm the one pushing the divorce now. That's the reason she's getting papers to go to get a divorce, because I push the divorce, because I don't want to be married to nobody like that no more. I didn't realize how sick that woman is. Anytime you're going to sit there and tell me $2,000 for stress, the whole world is stressed. Well, I mean, that is so crazy.
That's ridiculous.
I just think God is over.
Well, I witnessed him being outside the house trying to get in because the police told me that's what he was trying to do, and they asked me, did he live there? And I said no, and they said, well, he said he lives here, and they found out that he didn't.
She's a greedy, money
hungry snake. That's it.
She is. She's greedy, hungry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina Lillard claims Martha Flynn and Gary Christensen owe her for taking care of their daughter for nearly a year.
Okay, so you revoked the guardianship that you had given her.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why.
Because at the time, my grandfather was having a birthday party, and I wanted to take my daughter to the party, and I was denied that. And I finally realized that it was time for my kids to be together, so I had to do this, to revoke, to get my daughter out of their home.
Where do you work now?
It's appliance.
How long have you worked there?
About 5 years.
You're not married to her, is that right?
No.
You legally been declared the father of these two children in any court?
No.
Where are those welfare papers? Let's see them. Did you name him as the father of these children in your welfare application?
And my son, it was undetermined. And we are going through courts right now to establish paternity for that.
You don't have to go through courts to establish paternity. When you apply for public assistance in this country, they ask you who the father of the children are. Did you name him as the father of your two children? The answer is you did not.
No, I did not.
Right.
As my daughter. She was.
Yes, I'm named for the daughter, but not for my son.
In your welfare application.
That's right.
Just a second. In your welfare application.
For my son, it is unknown, and for my daughter, it is Gary Christensen.
It says that here?
I don't know what it says right there.
Oh, no, it doesn't say anything about you naming anybody as the father of these
that's
children.
only one form of, a form of approval of assistance. That's only one form of everything you have to file
Has the Department of Social Services, the State Department of Social Services, brought you into court for support? No. You know why? Because she didn't tell him you were the father. Do you want to know why?
I was uncertain.
Because if she told them that you were the father, they would come against you for the support that she had been receiving for the children.
I'm the one who turned his name in. It was uncertain.
What made you certain now?
Because I just started dating Gary at the time I got pregnant.
Well, what makes you certain now that he's the father of both?
We are going through paternity right now.
So are you telling me now that you're not the father, that you don't know whether he's the father of your older child?
Yeah, that's exactly right, what I'm saying.
Is that right? Do you two live together?
No.
But they do live under the same roof.
They do?
Yes.
In whose house?
Gary's
I've been living with my grandmother. My grandmother has let her and my daughter and son come in till they're...
And son. So your daughter and son, according to you, both children, yours, come live in your house?
No, my grandmother.
Your grandmother's house. And you have two separate rooms, I assume?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what's the status of your welfare case now?
I'm receiving aid for my son and daughter until I get on my feet.
You get on your feet. You're standing on your feet.
Exactly right.
You're standing on your feet.
Exactly right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
I want to tell you something. Two of you have made an art form out of figuring out how to scam the system.
No, the reason why my daughter
Scam the system. And I want to tell you something. If you've been receiving welfare for your children, and he's been working at an appliance store for 5 years, your lawsuit seeks money. $500 a month for 10 months to take care of their child. Right? Because you are going to have to support this child. If two babies make a baby, then everybody suffers a little bit. Right, Mr. Pretty?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, that's true. I mean, because when I read your answer, I found something bizarre in your answer. You say, Joshua D. Pretty got me pregnant. You know, it's very hard to nail a moving object. Right? He didn't get you pregnant. This was
two of us.
The two of you. Okay. I assume that you're going to want to do the right thing and be part of this child's life. And the first thing that you have to do is stand in front of the mirror every morning for 10 minutes and say the words Shelby, 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 Shelby. Not the kid, the kid, the kid, the kid, the kid. And then I assume that you're going to want to do the responsible thing with regard to being a regular part of your daughter's life.
This right here proves to me that I am a father, and I'm not going to quit. I'm going to be that kid's father. Shelby's father.
Shelby.
I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be the best father I can to Shelby.
Okay.
My
You said it, and I assume that you, at this point, mean it, and it's going to take some effort. And
My father
as
was
angry
there for
as
me.
you might be with him, or as angry as you might be with each other at this moment, that's really totally irrelevant. You
Yes.
chose to have a baby with him, and it's not a good thing for your daughter to grow up without knowing that she has two parents who care about her. So you have to make it easy rather than difficult for him to visit with her. So try to be good parents. You didn't start out on the right foot, but you have a baby. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
I'm glad that he finally found out the fact that he is the father, and I want him to realize the fact how hard it is to raise a child.
At least, you know, we know the truth. Everything will work out. Her and I can work out most of the problems between us ourselves, I think.
And now the next case.
All parties on McDonald versus Page. Step forward, please.
37-year-old clerk recorder Gail McDonald is suing 42-year-old violinist Pamela Page for fraud. Gail claims Pamela signed her name to a deed to avoid foreclosure.
All right, let's start with the defendant, because that's really the problem here. Miss Page, according to these papers, you were in the process of losing your home in foreclosure. Is that right?
That is correct.
And somebody told you that the way to hold off that foreclosure was to do what?
Meet this person at the courthouse and sign some papers and file.
Now, come on. What they told you was, according to what I have here, is that if you signed your house over to somebody else, that would delay the foreclosure. Isn't that what they told you?
That was not revealed to me until we met the day, like...
Whatever. At some point, you went to the county clerk's office and signed your house over to somebody by the name of Gail McDonald, right? Miss Page, listen up here.
Yes.
That's what you did.
Yes, I did.
And you didn't know a Gail McDonald.
Did not.
So you just picked a name, Gail McDonald.
I did not pick the name.
Somebody else picked a name.
Yes.
And took your hand and wrote it on and wrote it.
I did not write it.
You signed it.
I signed it.
So you signed your house over to a Gail McDonald, right?
Correct.
Who you didn't know.
Correct.
In order to really fraudulently delay this foreclosure on your house. Right? Of course, right.
I was not aware that it was fraud.
Well, of course you were aware that it was fraud. If you signed your house over to somebody that you don't know, that's fraudulent.
It was not supposed to be for the full amount of my home.
I don't care whether it was for $1.
And it was to
You picked a fictitious name in order to delay the bank from foreclosing on your house.
I did not pick the name.
Hello?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know, you sound like an innocent.
I am innocent.
Yeah, I am innocent.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People. Judge Judy. Gail McDonald claims Pamela Page signed Gail's name to a deed to avoid foreclosure.
Now, your name is Gail McDonald.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when for the first time did you find out that you had some trouble?
June 2nd, I received a declaration from the lending institution stating that Mrs. Page here had deeded her property to Gail McDonald on May 26th.
Just a second, you said, aha, I'm a homeowner.
Exactly. Until I read through the contents of it and learned that it was an improper transfer and that Pamela Page here has a history of filing bankruptcy. She had, over the 2-year period, she had filed bankruptcy 4 times. I had filed bankruptcy in May. My bankruptcy was filed May the 12th. My bankruptcy did her good because her home fell under the protection of the bankruptcy court at the time of foreclosure, so the banks aren't able to foreclose on her property because I am now the owner. The banks came after me.
Oh, so this wasn't just any name that was picked out. This name was picked out because she had already filed for protection under the bankruptcy laws. Isn't that right, Miss Page?
This is what I've been told, yes.
This is what I've been told. You know, you sound like an innocent.
I am innocent.
No, you're not. I am innocent. All right, so let me hear what you had to go through as a result of this fraud.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, during this time, I had foot surgery on both feet. I had surgery on 3 toes. I had stitches in them. It wasn't even a week after I had the surgery. I immediately called my sister here and told her, you know, I don't know what to do. But it had asked any parties wishing to be there on the June 4th hearing that I had to be here. I looked at the very last page that listed me as a transferee. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this because the lending institution is now considering me as the transferee in this matter. I talked to my sister. We found an attorney at the last minute. I had to hire a real estate attorney, someone who knew the language about this matter, at the very last minute. In 2 days, show up in San Jose, more than 60 miles from my home, drive myself with stitches in my foot, pay the attorney at the time of the hearing.
How much did you pay the attorney?
I had to, at that time, show up with at least $600. I gave her a $100 deposit, and my sister wrote the check for the other $500.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
We tried to make sense of the matter. My attorney and I tried to make sense of the matter after her hearing. It was a dismissal, and my attorney tried to speak up on my behalf. Your Honor, Miss McDonald has been drugged into this matter. Her name is not cleared in this matter. But anyway, the judge just said that she has that right to have her case dismissed. And if my attorney wanted to set a motion, she had to do it in another court. When we walked outside,
just a second. So the court dismissed her case.
Dismissed her.
But didn't dismiss your case.
No, the attorney did not. I mean, the judge did, and my attorney tried to talk to her attorney, and her attorney walked away from us. And you know I'm telling the truth. You guys walked away from us.
Look at me.
They walked away from us, and they said, we did it. We did it. That's exactly what they did. And my attorney was still trying to talk to her attorney, and they just left us standing there.
You mean they did it?
They succeeded.
The house was not foreclosed.
The house was not foreclosed, and she was able to save her house. My attorney then had to write a demand letter on her, make a demand letter on her bank. The response we got back from the bank is saying that Pamela Page is the culprit. They put the blame back on her.
I don't need a bank to tell me that.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
How many letters and
my attorney wrote a letter
correspondence did your attorney have to?
My attorney wrote a letter to the U.S. bankruptcy trustee officer informing them about this scam. I contact the FBI. I contact Attorney General office. They told me that this scam was operating in Los Angeles, and it has somehow moved its way to Northern California, and I had got caught in the middle of it. But it was nothing no one could do. I didn't have the money to take her house, because I would love to have your house.
Do you still have your house, Miss Page?
Yes, I do.
Good. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. Now you can do.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm an innocent party as much as she is.
She benefited from this.
I was not part of a scam. I was taken advantage of. I can't get my home back because it's in somebody else's name that I don't know.
Now that justice is served, I feel better about that.
This is the main road between Beirut and the south of the country, and for hours since this ceasefire came into effect, thousands of people have been trying to go back to their homes, families, people carrying their belongings, lots of mattresses here. People are waving and carrying flags, Hezbollah flags, and also posters with the face of the late leader Hassan Nasrallah, who was assassinated in an Israeli attack in Beirut. This happens despite warnings from the Israeli military and also from Lebanese authorities telling people not to go back to their homes now. This is a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from the south of the country. And people here are telling us that they haven't been defeated in this conflict despite the widespread destruction caused by airstrikes and also the massive blows that Hezbollah has suffered. They say that this is a sign of victory.